there are two key factors that go into the assessment of that visa and which will determine the outcome of your visa application. How are we today, my loves? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chioma. So today I am going to be talking about 5 reasons why your visa application might be rejected. Before I say anything else, guys, I just need to make this disclaimer. It's important. I am not a migration agent. I am not an education agent. Everything that I share in my videos, this one inclusive, that talks about anything related to immigration is shared from my personal experience or from my personal research or from the interactions I have had with other people who have gone through the same process, okay? Why I say this is because it is important for you to do your own research. It is important for you to always verify the currency of the information you're getting from whatever source. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it is Chioma or it is a migration agent. You can always verify by going back to the official migration website of the country you want to go to. Some of you have shared concerns over something that your agent has probably recommended or advised that you do or not do. Some other people have just dropped comments, but then in reading those comments, I can already see reasons why, if this person followed their plans just the way they thought of it in their heads, they might be eventually facing a visa refusal. And the last thing you want to happen is, after giving all your time, your effort, your money into that process, you get denied. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good experience. So let's get into those 5 reasons. Number 1, the GTE requirements. I have made videos in the past where I have addressed the GTE requirements. There was a video I made sometime within the past few months talking about the documents you need to put together for a successful student visa application. And I also talked about how to address the GTE question. So please do yourself a favor, go watch that video. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about the GTE question now, okay? What you would need to do to respond to the GTE question would be to write a personal statement, but also provide evidence of everything you claim in your personal statements. Some of the things you want to pay attention to would be addressing the part about your personal situation in your home country and your potential situation when you eventually come into Australia. And how you can do this is by demonstrating that you have strong ties back home. So think about all those things that you've built your life on back home, all those things that your life is centered around. Could it be the case that you've got caring responsibilities, maybe to your parents, or maybe other siblings, or maybe your immediate family members? Talk about those things. Could it be that you've got a business you're running, a business that is still in operation, okay? It has to be a current business, not a business that folded off 5 years ago. You want to provide evidence from that business. So things like your business registration documents, your tax assessments, anything to show that this is a thriving, operating business. You would like to go back home when you're done with your studies to continue running that business. If you've got family members, for instance, that you are sponsoring their education or you're responsible for, you also want to show documents to prove your responsibility towards those family members. So things like school fees you've paid in the past, or even rental agreements if you're the one who is paying their rent. I mean, in a country like Nigeria, it's not uncommon for some of us adult children to be paying the rent for some of our other family members. You want to show all of that. Yes, I know it might sound absurd to you, but let me tell you something. Immigration is not one of those things where the saying that less is more applies. I don't believe in that. I believe more is more when it comes to immigration. The more you can give them, the better for you, as long as it is relevant to what you're being asked to demonstrate, okay? Provide as much information as possible. It is better you provide more than they need than that you don't even address the basics that they've required of you. In addressing your potential situation when you eventually come into Australia, I want you to drill down to details. How are you going to support yourself? This is where your financial capacity comes in and the evidence you're showing for financial capacity. Where are you going to be studying? I am talking about the specific address, the location of your campus. Some people might make general statements, for instance, like, I am coming into New South Wales to study this course. It's not enough. Don't say you're coming to New South Wales. New South Wales is a huge state. Where exactly in New South Wales are you coming? Talk about the location, the address of your campus. If you know anything about your course structure, the lecturers, your head of school, put all of that information in there. What you're demonstrating by doing all of that is you're actually keen on coming in to study. You know everything about this course you're coming to study. You're not trying to use that avenue of a student visa to run away from your country or not go back home. Financial capacity is also a huge one. Now let me spend a little time talking about financial capacity. I read a comment just the other day from someone who said their agent had advised them not to bother about proof of funds. This person had already gained admission, but then the agent was saying for them not to bother about proof of funds. What I understood from that comment, and I have also kind of gotten the same sentiment from other comments I have read in the past, is that maybe there's a bit of a confusion about that process, the application process. We're looking at two different processes here, two separate, independent processes. The enrollment process into school and the application process. The positive outcome of one, in this case, enrollment into your course, is not a guarantee that the other will be successful. Why do I say this? Especially in light of the comments that I told you I read regarding proof of funds. Your school may have waived proof of fund requirements as a result of the relationship that your agent has with that school. Keep in mind that if it is an education agent, they receive a commission for every successful enrollment, and sometimes they also have benefits that they can pass on to the students, which would include things like waiving certain requirements to secure your enrollment. But that is where it ends. It has nothing to do with the requirements for your student visa application. So when your agent is saying to you that you shouldn't bother about proof of funds, it's a red flag for me. Another thing I say to people as well is think like a visa officer. Imagine that an application has landed in front of you and this person is trying to prove the genuineness of their intentions to come into Australia. You're probably not going to be making your judgment only based on what they say or what they write, in their form. You're going to be reading between the lines. You're going to be looking for loopholes. What they don't say matters just as much as what they say. Going back to what I was saying about these two processes or these two stages being quite independent, immigration has said, we want you to show evidence of financial capacity. Please do not listen to your agent. The immigration department does not set a different rule or a different set of assessment rules just because you're coming from an agent. It doesn't work that way. So point number 2, which I'm going to discuss, is not in itself a reason for your application to be denied, but it is something that I feel you should consider regarding how visa applications are assessed. Now, when it comes to student visa applications in particular, there are 2 key factors that go into the assessment of that visa and which will determine the outcome of your visa application. Number 1 would be the ranking of the school that you're applying to come study at. And number 2 would be the risk level of the country that you're coming from or your country of citizenship. These 2 things go hand in hand to determine what set of assessment rules your application will be subject to. Let me use the instance of Nigeria. Nigeria, unfortunately, sits at a high risk level, and the school that you apply to attend as a Nigerian also has a ranking, so it has a number ranking. That number ranking combined with your country of citizenship, like I said, will greatly determine how your application is going to be assessed. So if your school already ranks as a high risk level school and you are coming from a high risk level country, You be the judge. How do you think your visa will be assessed? Like I said, I'm not saying here that in itself already leads to a visa cancellation. No, it doesn't. But what it means is that your visa application is probably going to be subject to closer scrutiny. Okay? It's going to be subject to a different set of rules than for someone who is coming from a lower risk country. When I talk about schools that have a high risk assessment ranking, what I mean is schools that unfortunately have gained a bit of a reputation as always recruiting students from particular countries who do not do well in those schools. In this sense, I am talking about students who come in and they abandon their studies, stop attending classes, or the school is always reporting a breach of enrollment conditions or visa conditions from these sets of students from that particular country of citizenship. And this brings me to another point which a number of you have also raised in your comments and questions. And this is regarding agents advising people not to apply together as a family. So for instance, you might want to come with the rest of your family as the student visa holder, but then your agent is saying don't do that because if you apply together as a family, chances are you're going to get rejected. I am going to say that advice holds some weight actually, and we were giving the same advice when we migrated to Australia 7 years ago. My husband came in first, myself and the kids came in a few months later. What I have just said regarding risk assessment levels for both the school and the country of citizenship might also be the reason that your agent is advising you to apply separately. Okay? Now, in terms of what you can do to actually address that little tricky point, it goes back to what I said about financial capacity. There was something else I should have mentioned. When it comes to financial capacity, beyond proving that you have the money, beyond having that money sit in your account for 3 months, if it's possible, you want to present a stable account. What do I mean by this? An account where the money is actually stable, not one where money is going in and out and insignificant amounts too. You want to avoid that as much as possible. If it's possible for that money to sit in your account beyond 3 months, let it not just be the minimum 3-month requirement you're aiming for. If you can have that money sit there beyond 3 months, it will be good for you. It will, it will make a stronger case for you in terms of the genuineness of your application and in terms of the genuineness around having made arrangements to look after not just yourself, but also your family members. And another thing I want to mention here, which is important and also along the lines of financial capacity, would be that money that would be sitting in your account for minimum of 3 months should be enough to cover both yourself and the living expenses of your family members. Let it not be the case that you first of all show proof of funds just for yourself. You come in and then at the time that you're applying for your dependent family members to join you, suddenly money moves from nowhere, like a significant amount lands into your accounts. That is going to raise red flags. So the amount that is required for you to demonstrate as financial evidence to look after both yourself and your family should be sitting in that account, even if you're going to be coming in separately. So that at the time that you're applying for the rest of your family to join you, it is evident that you actually did make genuine plans to cater for your family, even though they didn't accompany you at the time that you landed in Australia. Does that make sense? At this point, guys, as I always do, if this video has made sense to you so far, would you consider subscribing? Please do, because it helps this channel to grow and I appreciate it. That is one of the ways that you can support me on here. So just click on subscribe. You might want to take it a notch further. Click on notification for your own benefit so that you don't miss anything I post on here. And please give this video a thumbs up. That is also a great way to show support for this channel and to help this channel to grow. Thank you very much. So let's move on to number 3. Number 3 would be mismatched education background and study goals. So what do I mean by this? I have also received comments, guys, of people saying that they have been advised to come study at a level that they've already attained. So studying towards a qualification you already have. An agent is advising you to come study another bachelor degree when you already have a bachelor degree, or a master's degree when you already have one. In some instances, some people have mentioned plans about wanting to come in and study towards a qualification lower than what they already have. You have a bachelor degree, but you want to come in and study a diploma. Or you have a PhD and you're thinking about coming to study a BSc. How does that work? Again, going back to what I said about thinking like a visa officer. Naturally, people want to progress upwards. When you finish with a diploma, the next thing would be a bachelor degree. You finish with that, the next thing is a master's degree and then a PhD, not the other way around. So you need to be careful around that. Now, it is possible that you might already have a higher degree but want to study something lower because you're considering a career change or maybe a transition into another line in your profession, and you feel that going back and starting from the basics would be beneficial to you. That's fine. But then how do you convince the visa officer? It really doesn't make sense at that point to be talking about the higher qualification you already have. Because at the end of the day, if you're making a career switch, then your master's degree that you have in an unrelated profession is irrelevant. So maybe you even want to leave that out of your application in the first place. But as long as you're going to be showing evidence that you have attained a certain level of education, but yet you're making an application to come study towards a lower qualification, that is going to raise red flags, and that can ultimately lead to a visa refusal. I have talked a lot about things that agents have recommended or not recommended, advice that people have gotten from their agents. And this ties into my fourth point, which is misinformation from agents, complete reliance on other sources of information outside of the official immigration source. I talk a lot about this on my channel. If you've been following me on here for a while, it is actually one of my pet peeves when it comes to immigration, when it comes to matters related to migration, the fact that people kind of relax when it comes to doing their own research. You really cannot rely on just one source of information when it comes to migration, especially if that source is not the official source. Stop relying entirely on what your agent has said to you. Stop relying entirely on what I am saying to you in this video, because guess what? It might be the case that you stumble on this video 6 months after I have made it, and then you take whatever I tell you in this video as the truth. Unknowing to you, things might have changed. 6 months is a very long time when it comes to immigration and how quickly things can change. Policies change all the time without warning. So even after watching those videos on YouTube, even after talking to your agents, listening to your agents, go back and verify this information. Thankfully, information regarding immigration is not hidden. Actually, it's free. It's something that you can access anytime from any smart device. So please use it wisely. All the things that I have heard some of you share with me regarding the advice that some acclaimed migration agent, education agent is advising you to do does not sit well with me, makes me uncomfortable, because it can potentially lead to your visa being rejected, and you don't want that to happen. So please do your own research. I beg you, do your own research. Do I need to say more on that? Let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is kind of obvious. So I'm talking about incomplete, incorrect, or fraudulent documents. If you didn't already know, just the fact that your application is incomplete is enough to earn you a rejection. Before you hit submit, go over that checklist over and over again. Make sure that you have everything together. If you've been denied a visa before, whether to Australia or another country, don't lie about it. I beg you, don't. Australia is actually in partnership with a lot of other countries to share migration-related information. Okay, so they've got a migration sharing, or is it called biometric data sharing arrangement with some countries, including the UK, the US, Canada, and New Zealand. Okay, and maybe some other countries. You do not want to lie on your application by saying you've never been denied a visa when you actually have. Say the truth, provide reasons for your denial, talk about what you have done to address those reasons for your previous denial. That is the best way, instead of keeping mum about it or lying about it outrightly and thinking that they will not find out. And the other one would be incorrect applications. So it might be an honest mistake, an innocent mistake you've made in your application. Unfortunately, that can cause a visa rejection as well. Now that you know these reasons, you have the information, you know better, do better. I hope this has been helpful. If you've got any more questions, any comments, if you have any tips to share regarding how you were able to navigate some of these things, especially things like the GTE requirements, please put it in the comment section for the benefit of others. Let's build a community where we help each other in this space. I'll see you again in my next video. Bye-bye.